I'm not exaggerating when I say that this was the best episode I have ever recorded of the Kerner Office. I interviewed a guy from Twitter that you've probably never heard of. He lays low. He lives in Knoxville, Tennessee. His name's Matthew. He owns a bunch of really freaking cool businesses: an Alpine slide, an indoor snow facility where kids can go sledding, all kinds of really unique businesses. And you would never, ever have heard of either this guy or his businesses if you weren't listening to this right now. I promise every minute of this episode gets better and better the more you listen to it, because we get more comfortable with each other. We keep talking, we're ideating, we're coming up with ideas all over the place. This isn't just like a ploy to get you to listen to the end, but it gets better as you go. And we're going to talk again in 3 or 4 weeks. Let me know if you want to have him on again, because we only got to like a third or a quarter of his businesses. This guy's freaking awesome. We came up with amazing ideas that you can copy yourself. I hope you love this episode. Let me know. Email me if you do, chris@cofounders.com, and I will have him on a second, third, 30th time, whatever you want. Anyway, enjoy. You go by Matt or Matthew?
I get called both, but usually Matthew is what I say.
Okay. It's funny because you own so many things that like I'm looking up to you, right? Like I want to talk to you.
No. I appreciate that. It's something that I feel like just watching your stuff that we are very much alike in terms of just like enjoying new things, enjoying making things, how things operate, definitely how things tick, and exploiting opportunities when it makes sense. Yeah, I don't know. That's the vibe that I get from you, and hopefully I'm close to right.
Yeah. No, that's it. I'm just curious, and I'm too impatient to not find answers to things. And then once I find an answer that's like, oh, this business could work, I'm too impatient to not try to make it work like right away.
And yeah, like I wouldn't call it impatience, but like when you set this up, I was like, yeah, let's connect whenever. And then you're like 3:30 or 2:30 or whatever. And just that directness of like, well, let's just
Yeah.
do it now. Let's do it tomorrow. And that catches me off guard a little bit in a good way. It's just, I could do some more of that in terms of just making things happen and pushing things forward. And yeah, just even appreciate, how you went about that.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah. And transparently, when I have an opposite reaction, like, all right, well, let's explore that at some point. It's like, I'm just not that interested, you know?
There's an endless amount of cool things, cool people, opportunities. And so, yeah, if you don't like get in front of that person or whatever, yeah, people find other things. So, yeah. So, anyways, I have admittedly not watched your show mainly
That's okay.
because it would get me so like anxious where it's just like listening to you or reading your stuff or like listening to a great podcast. I start having so many ideas and it's like I can't do that right now. I'll save it for later.
Focus.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of catching up to do in terms of your videos and stuff. I definitely want to get through them all over time or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I just want to hear, like, why don't we start with you just telling me everything that you own, like everything that you're doing that you're comfortable talking about?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, just as I guess a disclaimer, I am totally fine with whatever question you want to ask or whatever. And worst comes to worst, I say we'll save that for later or something. But yeah, feel free to ask about anything. And I was thinking about how to explain where I'm at and what my history is. And I boiled it down to I grew up in a very like entrepreneurial, free household where I was allowed to build and experiment and fail and all this stuff. And so what that has led to is this isn't planned, but I feel like every 2 or 3 years I do like some major project. And each time I do a major project, it's bigger than the last one, whether that's good or bad. And then mixed in, there's all these little, whether they're experiments or one-offs or whatever. I think part of that is I just love the novelty. I love the creation. I love just trying new things. And so, anyways, yeah. So the big stuff, I think we originally connected on Pigeon Forge Snow, which it is an amusement in Sevier County, Tennessee, which, in case people aren't familiar, that's home to Dollywood. And yeah, it's a total tourist town. And that provides a lot of opportunity to be unique in terms of creating amusements and restaurants and even lodging that people haven't seen before. And so, anyways, I built Pigeon Forge Snow, built it in 2017-ish and opened in 2018. It is a 35,000 square foot building that is indoor snow complex. It's open all year long. One thing that is really unique about it is it's something called temperature independent. And so basically, when you go in the building, it ranges anywhere between maybe 65 degrees and 72 or whatever. It is not a what they call sub-zero facility. We're open all year long. And yeah, it's a pretty big operation. We've got, depending on the time of year, we've got 30, 40, even up to 50 employees. We staff around the clock. We've got a morning and day shift. That leads into the afternoon and evening shift. And then when we close to the public, we have a third shift that comes in that blows snow all night. And then we do it all over again. And for the most part, yeah, we're open up 365 days a year unless there's something crazy. So, anyways, I guess my baby. And before that, I guess the major project was I built an Alpine coaster or a mountain coaster.
Right around the
If you're,
corner?
yeah, just a couple miles down the road. And that was maybe 2014, 2015. And I had never even heard of a mountain coaster. It was brought to me through a group of people in town that were also amusement operators and owners. And they sent us video of this other business, this Alpine coaster. And there was like an hour-long wait all day long. I was like, what is
Where
this
was
thing?
this one at?
So it's on Weirs Valley Road, but it was the first one in the area. It's called Smoky Mountain Alpine Coaster, and it's just a couple miles away from Pigeon Forge Snow. And
Wait, so I meant the one that
yeah,
they brought to you that had a line out the door. Was that
yeah,
one
yeah,
in Pigeon Forge?
yeah. And I think you would agree with this. Sometimes the best opportunities are, being inspired by other people's work and being
Sure.
respectful of that. But yeah, understanding that there was a market there and trying to capitalize on it. And so, anyways, this group formed. There were 10 people, with me included. And the big thing was, hey, these Alpine coasters, they take a lot of area, and land is at a premium in that area. You need the elevation change to make the up track work along with the gravity of the down track. And so there's just not a lot of places that you can build something like that, zoning, all that kind of stuff. There was a place right up the road, just coincidentally, of that competitor that was identified. And we ended up leasing part of this guy's property to build it. And it was awesome. Like, it was such a cool experience. The company that builds most of these coasters, they're out of Germany, and they just they're incredible with like their precision and their engineering and everything. And so basically you write them a big check and they build all that in Germany.
How big of a
Disassemble
check
it.
are we talking?
That okay, so now keep in mind this was 2004, 2015 numbers. The coaster itself was probably maybe 1.6 to 1.8. There was maybe half a million in terms of shipping and that kind of stuff. You had to build it, which was probably another million. It's a mile long track, 6 or 8 foot sections at a time,
Holy
steel.
cow.
Yeah. And so it's a giant Lego set basically, but still, it's a lot of work. But it's a pretty simple concept. All it's basically, again, there's a loading station and there's single carts. It holds two people, but typically it's just one person. It connects to a cable, which takes them all the way up the up track, just like maybe a traditional roller coaster, get to the top, and then gravity does the rest. And they zip down about a mile. And what's really cool about it is you can control your speed. You've got handles and you can go fast, you can go slow. And we capped ours around maybe 30 miles an hour, something like that. And when you're a couple inches off the ground at times and going 30 miles an hour, it feels way faster. I have seen grown men scream and stop and all kinds of stuff. And so, anyways, it was and is a great ride. We went into this Alpine coaster boom where after us, there were a lot that were popping up in the area, but everyone's kept doing more and more money. It was just something that, and it still is something that really resonates with people. The whole family can do it. Personally, I don't like riding roller coasters. I get motion sickness. So even with me, you just go slow and you enjoy the view, or it's a great date, or with kids, or young, old, everything. And so it really, really resonates with people. It is the most shocking thing was when this first one opened up, they were about $15 or $16 a ticket. And which doesn't sound that bad, but
that's for one ride, right?
One ride. And that's 4, 5, 6 minutes, depending on how fast or slow you go. And there's a discount for a second ticket. And you would see people get off the ride, smiling ear to ear, buy another ticket, even at a discount, but then go get back in line for sometimes up to an hour or two to just do it
Wow.
again. And so it was just something. They're great, they're fun. I always recommend them to people.
You didn't foresee that people would ride that many times?
I, right, and I don't know. I think I'm frugal at heart, and so it's just like, and then you
Yeah.
start thinking,
How are you
okay,
spending this much
yeah,
money?
yeah,
Right.
and it's something that it's something families 4 or 5. I believe you have
Hmm.
several kids.
Four.
Is that right?
Four, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you know better than I
We
do.
went. Yeah, we went in Pigeon Forge. I don't know
Yeah,
if it was
yeah.
yours or not, but
Do you remember the name or
it's
any?
probably in my email. I've been thinking,
No problem.
but
So ours is very easy because it's like the most obnoxious one. There was an existing business there called Goats on the Roof that is a shop that literally just has goats on top of it. And so, anyways, you would definitely remember if you went to ours. Odds
no
are,
goats.
okay, then no goats and not us, no big deal. There are so many in town now, but man, they're just great. They are these turnkey businesses, believe it or not. If you have the capacity to write a fairly large check, and if you have the spot to put it, it's
It's a good
actually
business.
pretty easy. It's a
Yeah,
giant assembly line,
sure.
and it doesn't take that many employees. You can
Especially
run it.
compared to your snow place, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. And so anyways, we had success there and I learned a ton. I was the largest shareholder there. So I felt like I had a responsibility to do everything from marketing to operations to
Yeah.
I'd be working the ticket booth when somebody wouldn't show up.
So,
And so anyways, I was also by far the youngest in the group. And the group ranged from like me, who was probably late 20s, maybe 30, and the oldest guy there was maybe like 88 or 90. And so
yeah.
there was like a huge mismatch there. And whether it's right or wrong, I think I developed a real chip on my shoulder of that I was the kid or didn't know what I was
Yeah.
doing or all this stuff. And so as that chip grew and grew and grew, I reached a point in a couple of years of running the coaster as like, I need to prove to like the whole world that is not true, that I am creative and I can succeed. And that's when I started thinking about snow. And again, I can't stress it enough. There was nothing like that at the time. And so
Real quick,
it, yeah,
can I ask a couple questions before we move
of
on to snow?
course,
I've got like a
definitely.
zillion
Oh,
questions.
ask all you
So,
want.
what made them want to come to you in 2014 to be a shareholder? Had you already done
Yeah.
cool stuff or?
Not cool by probably their definition. It was a money thing. And that's a whole nother lesson of the group was broken down between some sweat equity in terms of putting the deal together. And obviously, at some point, there has to be money. I'm a little rusty on the numbers, but I think the group put in maybe $1 million all in all, and we borrowed, I want to say 2.4, 2.2, so, something like that. And so, anyways, my family is fairly well known in the area. I come from several generations of entrepreneurs in the real estate space. And so, anyways, I think it was just something that the name was known and that was how that connection was made. And at the time when that got brought up, the plan was like, okay, let's invest 25, $50,000. Let's just buy a lottery ticket, sure, whatever. And things kept happening where maybe somebody else dropped out or
Hmm.
they couldn't find another investor and one thing leads to another and it's like, oh my gosh, here we are like writing bigger and bigger checks. And but then it's like the sunk cost fallacy. It was like, I'm in this deep, let's just keep going. It's not going to be the end of the world if it doesn't work out, but this was not the original plan. And so
Yeah.
anyways, that's how that wound up.
Okay. So that probably also put a chip on your shoulder where you're like, listen, guys, I'm more than just a check. Like I
Oh,
could do this
definitely.
myself. I don't
Oh,
need all you.
definitely.
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
was the number one thesis like, hey man, this Alpine coaster just opened. It's the first one in the area. They're crushing it. They can't keep up with their demand. There needs to be a second. We could be the second. Was that kind of the
Yeah.
whole thesis?
Yeah, definitely. If anyone's even vaguely familiar with kind of the Pigeon Forge Gatlinburg area, it has this bad rap of that's just go-kart tracks and t-shirt shops or whatever. And
Hmm.
a couple decades ago, it definitely was that. But the reason it was that somebody opened up a go-kart track and
Yep.
there's wild stories of, especially before credit cards were prevalent, just massive amounts of cash, a lot of probably shady
Yeah.
accounting and taxes and stuff. And so you see somebody doing that, and then somebody opens up one beside the street, blah, 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 blah. And it seemed like there was just this demand for go-kart tracks and t-shirts. And so that's why we wound up with so many things like that. But obviously, people want more than just to ride a go-kart track. But
Yeah.
a go-kart track is something that anybody can comprehend how that business works. It's
Mhm.
very easy, very familiar. And then maybe you spice it up a little bit and you have a tunnel or something.
Mhm.
And the coasters were a very similar model. And I think the main reason it exploded like it did in our area and across the US is because, again, it is, believe it or not, very turnkey. It's engineered. This company from Germany, you pay them to come out, they'll drop the site plan, all this. If you hire a construction crew to build it, then it's just like go-kart track 2.0. And so, yeah, I think it's just very accessible. And that doesn't seem that intuitive. It's like very turnkey. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, I think that's why I forget what you asked, but I think that's why that was popular and that resonated with entrepreneurs in the area.
Okay. So you and a few others put in 7 figures, you borrow 7 figures, probably
Yeah.
takes 1 to 2 years to get open or so.
We, about a year, we had hiccup after hiccup and ended up getting close to the end and ran out of money. In hindsight, the guy that put the budget together, it was like on the back of a napkin. He
Yeah.
he was just guessing on stuff, and we're like, okay, yeah, that sounds right. And so then when it's like, man, like you didn't include like the cost to pave the parking lot or
Yeah.
whatever,
That's
and so I think we were short maybe 400 to 500,000, and I don't know the attitude of the bank at the time, but they extended our loan that amount. I think they were probably also like, hey, we're this deep in it too. And so, anyways, yeah. So, yeah, we put in about one and probably ultimately borrowed two and a half, maybe 2.75.
what did opening week look like? And I also want to know like first year, what did
Yeah.
that look like? And then as more competitors, what did it look
Yeah.
like last year on a
Yeah.
revenue,
Yeah.
traffic basis?
Yeah. So I have always loved marketing, especially like growth hacky little like
Hmm.
tricks. And at the time, Facebook had this ability to where you could download these tools and stuff and basically go to a competitor's business page, download all their
Yep.
users,
I've done
and you
that.
could, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It was amazing.
And then you
And
retarget to them.
yes, and basically uploaded all of the competitor who the competitor was doing and still is amazing. They went viral so many, anyways. And so their Facebook page, that was when Facebook was really popping off too. And so for months, I ran these ads against their list and basically said something like, if you like them, come check us out,
Yeah.
whatever it said. And we also came in at a lower price point too. I don't know if that was good or bad, but we're angled the cheaper one.
Yeah.
And so
Are you
I
still the cheaper one?
marketed pretty heavy. So fast forward a little bit, I sold out in
Okay.
2021, 22. But yes, they are still, I believe, the cheapest one.
Okay. So you marketed pretty heavy.
Marketed heavy. We opened up in like a nasty February day or whatever. And I remember we opened up and we advertised a $5 ride for our first couple days or whatever, which is really cheap. And I remember we did like, I don't know, eight or $10,000. And everyone was like, oh my gosh,
What'd
what
you
on earth?
expect?
The weather was so bad. It was kind of in the off season. And I don't know, maybe a few thousand, but I wasn't really familiar with the amusement business yet.
Hmm.
I remember that whole week I worked the ticket booth, and so somebody would come up and say, I'd like whatever, 4 or 5 tickets, and I'd punch it in and I'd say, okay, your total is, I don't know, $100 or whatever. And when I would see the 100 on the screen before I told the customer, I was like wincing because it's like, oh my gosh, like
Felt
they're going
bad.
to say no. Yeah, they're going to yell at me, all that kind of stuff. And it was just amazing. Like people on vacation
Yeah.
have a different mindset.
Yeah.
And so we were very heavy in cash. We were probably 70% cash, 30% credit card. And you just see
Mm.
people open up their wallet and just toss you $100. And I remember the first night we didn't have a safe, we didn't have anything. And I used to always carry a backpack around. And so that night, I just shoved all the cash
Like
in my
7 grand.
backpack. Yeah, yeah. And my kitchen table, just lay it all out and whatever. And it was very, in terms of the operations, very hacked together, very just build and iterate fast. And that, I love that. That is
Yeah,
so me.
that's the best part.
And oh, yeah, definitely. And it's something that first year, we probably did, I don't know, maybe $2 million, give or take. We
Wow.
just sold two things. No, sorry, we sold three things. We sold a ticket, which was an adult ticket, and a child's ticket, which is $12 and $15. Then we had a re-ride ticket, which was $5, which is very
Hmm.
popular. And then we also had a photo booth that would sell people their photos on the. And so, anyways, that was 100% our total revenue sources on the property. Like I said, there was an existing business, this kind of gift shop and food and goat food and all of that. And so I don't know his numbers. I would guess he definitely revenue wise had to be over $1 million. And so on the property, there was probably three, maybe $4 million changing hands. Obviously, I didn't have access to part of that. But anyways, yeah, that kind of gives you a kind of
Yeah.
a range. And so our first year we did really well and we continued to grow. We built the coaster pretty much ourselves, like as in somebody in the group had a construction background and so anyways, we every year we paid the price in terms of you've got this massive steel structure on the side of the mountain, this mountain, and we would get, when I say shifts in the track, I'm talking about 4 inches here, six
Hmm.
inches there. But the design was so precise that if it started to get out of whack, you just got grinding and wear and tear. And so basically, where I'm getting at is we close maybe every year for anywhere between a week to 3 or 4 weeks to fix stuff
Hmm.
that I don't think other coasters went through. And so that always, I feel like, shot us with having that like just blowout year.
Yeah.
And but we were very consistent. We had a lot of things working against us, but profitable, but just you want to see that growth. You want to double every year or whatever.
Yeah.
So pair that with like literally some years there were two coasters being built that year, and every year there was a new competitor.
Wow.
And yeah, I think the area, so Sevierville, Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg, I think they're up to maybe 10 coasters now.
Wow.
And I know of at least two that are planned and I assume going to get built. And I studied the competitor, the original one, Smoky Mountain Alpine Coaster, so much. I would go down to their parking lot and I'd sit there on my phone and just kind of do
Count people.
count how many people.
Yep.
And man, like they never slowed down. And it's still to this day the most baffling thing to me that, especially them, it was almost like the more competition that came in, they were doing even more themselves. And so, anyways, that industry is very strange in terms of the demand and the supply. It's something that I keep thinking that it's going to
Be
slow
saturated.
down. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but it doesn't seem to. And the profit margins are incredible. And so it allows a lot of room for
Yeah.
error there. The fourth, maybe fifth coaster that went in the area, I remember I knew some people involved with it. And I can't say 100% sure, but I think their budget was about 8 or 10 million. And at that time, and even still to this day, I was like, that amount of money, that is insane. But
Wow.
they print. And so it really shows that if it can support a build out like that, regardless what their terms are, whatever, yeah, it's just impressive. It just shows that the demand is there. It's still there. They're all, I think, doing well. And so it's a super interesting business. If you haven't done a deep dive on them, like,
Oh, I'm planning it now.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I've thought a lot about where are other areas
Hmm.
that you can do those, and they're all
You
around
you
the
kind of got to
country.
have the terrain, right?
You have to have the train, which so something really cool is the German company, their name's Wiggins. They were innovative enough to figure out how they can build these without having these massive up tracks. And so basically what they do, you still have to have quite a bit of area and elevation, but they chop up the up track. And so maybe instead of 1,000 feet or whatever of up track, They might do 300 or 400 feet of a smaller up track, do a smaller down track, do another up track, and so on and so forth. That coaster I was referencing earlier with the $8 or $10 million budget, they have 4 up tracks, and that was the first one to do that. And I thought it would fail because
Yeah.
the best part of the coaster is the down track. And so you would go up, and then just when you start getting going and you're smiling and you're going fast, you're stopping again, and you're doing
Mm.
another, okay, let's slow down, do another up track. To this day, I do not understand why people
Hmm.
resonate with those, but they do. And
Do
so,
they like, or are they
yeah,
just in business because they don't know what they're going into when they buy a ticket?
I thought the same thing. I was like, they'll burn out because word will get around and blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Man, I was wrong on
Hmm.
that. I,
What do
I
they charge?
more.
Three times as much, right?
Well, sure. They're probably, I don't know, $18, something like that. The best scenario is when you can put 2 people per cart. It's just wildly more profitable. Almost all of it is automated and has gotten way better over the years. And basically, the operator is responsible for helping the customer get on the cart, making sure they're buckled in. And then past that, the computer kind of takes over. And so basically, a perfect scenario is a cart leaving the station maybe every 20 seconds, 18 seconds, something like that. And I've done this. You can work backwards on the math there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even the best of the best coaster, they're capped at whatever that is. And there are definitely times that we operated, a lot of times that we operated every 20 seconds.
Yeah.
That does take some skill. That is not just, and, but then you're going to have somebody that's up on the down track and freaks out and goes really slow, slows the whole thing down,
Mm-hmm.
this and that. Yeah, just a bunch of crazy stuff. And the carts are really cool because they developed a system that basically it's an automatic braking system where they cannot collide. And so if it senses a cart going slow in front of it, it will slow down too. Now, some people get really pissed when they're halfway up and they're slowed down to crawl the rest of the way because grandma is just enjoying the view. But minus those things, yeah, like you can work backwards on revenue. You're very weather dependent. Summer is by far the best season. They made these, I call them rain shields, but basically like a plastic covering. And I don't know, I don't think that really resonates with people. People do it, but they're going to be way slower when it rains. But the insane thing is there are a lot of people that still want to do it in the rain. It feels terrible as it's just pelting you in the face.
Mm.
And it's something that they'll sit there and wait for the rain to clear and do it again. And so, anyways, weather dependent, temperature dependent, it there is no worse feeling than when it's 30 degrees and you're going 30 miles an hour
Yeah.
down that hill. Your face is just frozen. There's still people that do it. And so, anyways, you kind of hack together somebody's revenue if you give good estimates for those categories I just said.
And what are your net margins like, either yours or the industry's?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that with all these kind of amusement businesses, you're really heavy on initial investment and really depends on how you like amortize that or how you're accounting for that. But that, and then your costs from there, you've got next to no utility costs minus bathrooms and a little bit of electricity. You've got a little bit of a repair and maintenance budget and ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
And then staffing wise, you can run the coaster with 3 or 4 people. Probably good to have 6 or 7. But so, anyways, when you kind of work backwards on that, once you get over your hurdle rate of just debt service and stuff like that, there were definitely times we were over 50% margins. And then,
Ooh.
oh my gosh, yes. And you just got to think the cost of selling one more ticket once
Yeah.
you're over that, like it's
Pennies.
nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And your staff's already there. The lights are gonna be on. And so it's about can you be somewhere that you have enough demand, yeah, to get that hurdle rate. I would be interested in doing another one, not in my area, but I think the cost now to do it, if somebody asked me to look at their budget and they're thinking about doing one, if they were less than $10 million, I would be asking a lot of questions. And so that hurdle of 10 or $12 million, however you acquire that money, your debt or whatever, that adds up if it's percent interest rates or whatever. They're still doing them, so obviously it works, but I would be a little bit more hesitant on that. But I've seen other areas where people have put these in. There's a little there's a little town in Georgia, Helen, Georgia, and I think there's a couple there that do okay. Branson, Missouri has several. I think they do well. I've never seen a coaster close. We'll put it like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah. There's some out west in the Rockies, I guess, that are beautiful, like insane views. And yeah, so if you can find an area that makes sense from just a demand wise, the elevation is tough, but not
Hmm.
impossible if you're in. Well, even like I've brainstormed ideas like how could you do it without any
Yeah.
hills if you're in like Kansas or whatever. I don't know if it'd work, but I've got
It's
some
just a roller
ideas.
coaster at that
Yeah,
point,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, especially if you did it like in Kansas, I know nothing about the Midwest like that, but you'd really want to be confident you've got the demand.
Yeah.
But that's something too. It's like if you're in an area that there's not a lot to do in terms of like for kids or birthday parties or whatever, like I think it'd be such a hit. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I love coasters. I think they're great businesses. We were really big on safety, just running a really safe operation. That was important to me. We probably spent more on those kind of costs than most, which I would never encourage somebody not to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
even that, it's not that costly.
Did you ever
Um,
have accidents, and what did your insurance
yeah,
costs look like?
yeah, definitely. It's something that we would have little, mainly like an accident would be when two carts collided. And how
Hmm.
that would happen is I talked about this German engineering, and they developed these battery packs on each of the carts
Mm.
to control the automatic braking. And they were so precise with it that they said, okay, well, a cart's going to be on the track every for 7 minutes or whatever. So this battery's going to last 8 minutes. And when it comes back around, it'll recharge. And so that's great until somebody is, stops up there or
Hmm.
whatever. So, anyways, a low battery in that regard, you'll have people, and it's like rubber to rubber, but it'll still shock you. So there's whiplash, I guess, there. This is public. We had a woman break her arm. It was a seatbelt issue where her seatbelt, I'm not going to say who's at fault, but anyway, her seatbelt ended up where it's just like a car seatbelt. So it goes over the shoulder and through your lap. And she
She's
had
at fault. She did it. She was an idiot. Come on.
and so, anyways, she was uh, on the heavier side, and her body leaned one way, and then through force and just I guess her muscles, she could not correct her body back up, and so anyway, she broke her arm, and I feel terrible about that. There's a period of time just by pure coincidence that ourselves, the original coaster, the Smoky Mountain Alpine coaster, and one in Gatlinburg all had a very serious accident like same week of each other. And it was like
Mm.
July 4th weekend. It
That
was
was
a
a
terrible
bad
time.
week for the
Oh,
Alpine
it was
industry.
terrible. It was terrible. And
You
so
call
that
that
got,
Black
oh,
Thursday. All
well,
right.
the news are just, you got all these reporters. And anyways,
Yeah.
it was a terrible time. Learned a lot about PR, a lot about safety and laws and stuff. But anyways, so that period drove up everybody's insurance. I think
Hmm.
I can't speak to the other ones. Like one of them, from what I know, there was an employee after hours that kind of rode the
Hmm.
coaster down like a surfboard
I mean,
and
how
stood
could you
up on
not?
it. I agree, but
Mm.
anyways, he got hurt. And anyways, so maybe I don't know the final payouts insurance wise to each of these, but maybe call it $1 million each on the high side.
Wow.
But rates went up, but they didn't like double. And so insurance was relatively very cheap in the beginning. Off the top of my head, I feel like we paid, I don't know, maybe 50, $60,000 for our first year.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, it went up. I don't know what it is now. There's so many that I would be, and there's so many more safety innovations that I wouldn't be surprised if insurance was still pretty reasonable. Obviously, people are opening them up and able to get insurance and all that. So yeah, that is a common question of I'm sure insurance is crazy or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's expensive, but I don't know. I don't think it's that bad.
Still a single digit percentage line item.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
definitely.
what about your land lease costs and how long is the lease? I imagine that's probably a pretty big barrier to entry, right? Finding the right
Definitely.
topography and the right
Definitely.
owner that's willing to do this.
Yeah, yeah. So with our situation, in that area, and especially my dad and my grandparents, everything operated just very much handshake kind of deal. You have a rough price, you're not getting down to an exact dollar. And so, anyways, we had a handshake deal that we eventually got on, but I think it was $6,000 a month with no
Hmm.
price increases and fairly good terms, all that kind of stuff. I think we got the better end of the deal on that, but ours leasing the land is fairly uncommon up there. I think a lot of people buy theirs.
Yeah.
The good news about that is if you're confident on where you're putting it, more or less, this is really crappy land. Like you
Yeah.
want it rough
You can't do
and
much with it.
exactly.
And
And
and how many
so
acres are we talking?
the guy had 10 or 12, and there was a parcel beside it that we as a group bought. It was 5 more acres. I think we paid 200,000 or so. And the the first coaster, the Smoky Mountain Alpine coaster, they've got maybe 40 or 50 acres.
Hmm.
It's the side of this mountain, beautiful, but you can't do much with it. And I think if I remember correctly, looking up their records, maybe for all of that they paid $700,000 or $800,000, which don't get me wrong, is a lot of money, but is a steal for what they're doing. And yeah, there's that nice balance of a lot of this land. People can't think of another way to use it, and so it's relatively cheap.
Yeah. I mean, I went on an alpine slide when I was on my church mission in Hungary. There
Oh,
was
really?
one in this city called Sopron, Sopron, and it was
Okay.
like the missionaries would always go on it. It was the
Huh.
best. And I
Yeah.
think it was super cheap and it wasn't even mountainous. It was just like a hill.
Interesting.
I don't even know if you need mountains, right?
And so, oh, true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Hill can work very well, and not even like I'm obviously live in Tennessee. I live in Knoxville, which is about an
Mhm.
hour away or whatever. I'm sitting here at my house, and you can't see it, but we live on the top of this hill. It's nothing crazy. It's like what you see everywhere, and it wouldn't make sense. But I could put a coaster here in my neighborhood, load it at the bottom of the hill, and this is perfect.
You've
Like
thought
it's
about it.
not.
You thought about
Yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. It's just again, it's a very efficient business. And so, anyways, my point is there are so many places you could put it. I would be more hesitant about, okay, what makes sense in terms of the demand. From what
Mhm.
I know, a lot of the places in the US at least are either tourist spots, ski resorts, that kind of thing, which makes total sense. But I've got a theory that amusements, whether you're talking about snow or a coaster or whatever, if you're able to put one intelligently in just a normal city like here, Knoxville, I think it could actually do well. I don't think it
Yeah.
has to be a tourist spot.
Yeah. I
Do I
agree.
want to gamble $10 million and find that out?
Right.
Probably not. But I don't know. I could be talked into taking that bet, I think, under
Yeah.
the right circumstances. So,
Well,
yeah,
let me know what you think of this idea. I've had this idea for a while. So
yeah.
you may have seen the tweet, but we did a 50 state tour as a family in
Oh,
our
yeah.
RV.
Very cool.
And we like in Arkansas, Arkansas is known for gem mining. And you can find diamonds, you can find rubies, and that's kids love that, right? Like any human on the planet has treasure hunting baked into their DNA, right?
Of course.
So my kids, it was like 100 degrees. I was like, all right, can we leave? But I paid $130 or something. You pay
Wow.
like $15 for a bucket. You pay $10 for it's just crazy, but that's what you do. And then we went to Alaska and we panned for gold.
The
And
real
I'm like,
the real thing.
yeah, we panned for gold. And that was like $150. And then I thought, like, why is this stuff only in the middle of nowhere? And I
Yeah.
thought, you can, so I started looking like, where's the closest place you can pan for gold in to Texas? And you can do it in Colorado, right?
Hmm.
So that what if you literally just brought dump trucks full of dirt from Arkansas to Dallas and dirt from Colorado to Dallas, and you had a DFW area mining facility. It's just for
Yeah.
kids, and you could do authentic gold from Alaska or Colorado, and authentic, and it could just be in one place. Like, don't you think that could
Yeah,
work? There's
that's
9 million
incredible.
people here.
So we had, or the landowner at the coaster, he had gem mining there. It's a little bit one of those once you learn how the sausage is made kind of thing. It was like out back had
Yeah,
a bunch of dirt and sand, and you can buy
They just
these
put
bags.
gems in there, right?
And
Whatever.
but no, people like another one, very efficient to run. And you can even buy these setups, these gym mining setups that
Hmm.
just cycle water. You have somebody overseeing, but very popular. There is a dedicated gym mining facility in the middle of Pigeon Forge, a great location. So that has something to do with it. But they print. You are taking it in a more authentic way. And I have thought about not even like taking it that far, but it's such a good business, even the way we do it in town, which is a little janky. And I think it's ethical, but it's not, you're not getting real gold. And kids love it. One thing that I have found with all these things, adults love these things too,
Yes.
but they need an excuse to do it. And so
Yeah.
it's
They
like,
like, yeah. If an adult does it by himself, he's a serial
it,
killer.
it,
If he does it with
exactly.
his kids, then he's a good dad.
Yeah, exactly. And so we have at Snow, once we got open, I kind of transformed our gift shop and built this big candy store, and just hundreds of different kinds of weird candy and this
Hmm.
and that. And it does really
Yeah, I
well.
saw it. I was
Oh,
there.
okay. Oh, yeah,
It was
yeah, yeah.
awesome.
And so obviously, yeah, kids love it, but the parents for
Hmm.
themselves, that's our customer, believe it or not, because it's just an easy excuse. They're not going to buy a some neon pink sour candy on a Monday back home or whatever,
Yeah,
but they're in that setting and
they
it's like,
still
oh
want
yeah,
to.
exactly. And so whether it's candy or gym mining or whatever, I think, yeah, I love those kind of situations where like you're able to tap into a nostalgia element, put a twist on it where, like for me, indoor snow tubing, you might not have ever been to
Hmm.
us or even seen a picture, but you can think about what that is in your head.
Hmm.
Now, whatever you come up with in your head, odds are it's not going to look exactly like what I built. And so there's this uniqueness, there's also familiarity that
Hmm.
you pair it well together. And if you go too unique with something where you have to educate the customer, all
Yeah,
that,
too much
obviously
friction.
it can work. But yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's somebody that's competing for the same customer in a different way. And so yeah, like you are so right. Gold and mining and all that.
It's human
I
nature.
thought, yeah, I don't know. How old are you?
37.
I'm 37 too. So,
Oh, there you
anyways,
go.
you probably remember when that Gold Rush show first came out
Uh huh.
on Discovery. Yeah,
Yeah, I watched it. That's why everyone's
everybody's watching
watching.
it.
You
Everyone's
you go to
watching it.
NASCAR because you want to
Oh,
see Dale Earnhardt die.
oh,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah, of course, of
I
course.
mean,
And so it's something that when that came out, like, yeah, I remember, and my dad has all this junk, heavy equipment that was fun when I was a kid, and now it's just a pain. But it's like, Dad, let's take this and let's start digging some. And it's just like
yeah.
this, especially as a
American
male.
Pickers. Have you seen that
Yeah,
show?
yeah, exactly,
Same thing.
exactly. And so that, yeah, I can only speak being a male. There's something that resonates there. I think women would like that too. I know kids do. And so anything I do, I try to really make sure I can do something that resonates in some way
Yeah.
with the whole family, young to old, all that kind of stuff.
Well,
But
speaking
yeah,
of women,
I
like
think that's a great idea.
one of the things that went the most viral when Facebook Live and Instagram Live first came out were Asian women cracking open oysters to find pearls. Like those
No way. I didn't
would
see
have
that.
thousands or millions of concurrent viewers because it's like, is there a pearl? How big is the pearl? It's just,
That's
I don't think it's,
incredible.
I think it's irrespective of gender. Like we're all treasure hunters. We all want to see what
Of course,
happens.
it's funny you said that. We actually, and you might have seen this before, in our gift shop at Snow currently, we sell these kits. They're these
Hmm.
toys, and it is like a hard clay. One looks like a diamond, one looks like a bar of gold. There's a couple others, and yeah, it comes with a little hammer, and you can open it. And on the back, it even says one in, I don't know, 100 actually have a piece of gold in it.
Hmm.
And we sell those for 10 or $12, something like that. I think we buy them for two, three, $4 something. And
Hmm.
yeah, they're really popular. And yeah, I always look at them. I was like, I'm gonna take one of those home. I haven't, but I see the appeal.
Dude, I mean, how's this idea? So I thought I tweeted a while ago about putting bull riding in the mall, right?
Oh,
Like an inflatable, and it was like, oh, insurance. They mall wouldn't. Yeah, there's a mall out there that would.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I do want to test that. What if we took one of the gem mining kits and put it in a very high traffic, popular mall? Like,
Yeah,
tell me that
yeah.
wouldn't work.
I totally agree. So when you said the bull riding thing, well, another like principle that I try to stand behind is like you've got to be able to have turnover efficiently and obviously as much as possible. And bull riding or something that's a very singular, like 1% at a time kind of thing, obviously it can work. But something like gym mining or coaster, snow, whatever, you can have so many people going at once. And
Hmm.
the idea is if you knock something out of the park, you can just keep, like, you've got endless supply. All of the coasters ran into an issue where we had more demand than we did supply.
Hmm.
We did well, but we weren't the best one. But many days the line would be hour and a half, 2 hours long.
Wow.
And I did not end up doing this, but I thought about a couple years ago,
Surge
either
pricing.
buy,
Please tell me.
I have thought about that. Yeah, that's a different story. But purchasing one of the coasters,
Hmm.
existing business, or building a new one and doing a second one beside it.
Hmm.
And whether they're dueling or you just have double the capacity, if you are confident with the demand, or if I had that original coaster that's still right there today, first thing I would do is put a second one there. And like they instantly double their money,
Yeah.
like instant, and probably still have a line.
And you're
And
you're
so, yeah, and
de-risked
a lot of
too.
cool stuff.
You're
Hmm.
de-risked. You already know the demands are.
Yeah. And so again, it's a good problem, but a coaster's problem is a turnover problem. We have turnover problems and bottlenecks when we get really busy at snow. And so I'm always thinking about, yeah, if you do something, how can you either satisfy as many customers if you're really popping off, or you make up for it in other ways, like it's a premium. People still want to do it, but you don't have as many customers at a time. And so where I'm going with that is, yeah, like the gym mining thing, and they're a lot like arcade games. Like surprisingly, a lot of people don't know this, but all the arcade games that you see that Xbox in it or whatever, like literally the operator programs, like you open it up, the computer asks you how much is the prize worth, and you say
Hmm.
$1,000. Say how much do you want to make on that, and you say I'd like to make 2,000, and then you hit OK, and then literally whether it's a crane game or whatever, it literally won't pay out until then. And so it's like if you have the demand, it is such a precise little business. And that's the same with gym mining, where if you could work the numbers, where like you imagine if you could have legit prizes, like they're not common,
Hmm.
but like a legit diamond,
Yeah.
a legit gold. And it's the same thing. You work backwards. You say, what can I afford? What margins? And then, yeah, make like, I'm also a really big fan of like, if you're going to do something like that, like how can you like 10x the experience or 10 times cheaper, 10 times more expensive, or 10 times
Yeah.
better
Yeah.
rather than just this marginal little, we've got slightly more gold or
Yeah.
whatever. Like it'd be awesome. Like the Mr. Beast model of anything he does, it goes really big and it's this wow factor.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, love that. Big fan of malls too. I've always been interested in capitalizing on that, even though they're on the decline. But
Yeah.
I still think there's a lot of opportunity
Yeah.
there.
I'm getting so many ideas as you talk. Like, okay, I'm just gonna spit them all out. So
Yeah.
I recently thought of the phrase illusion of saturation, right? Where let's say
Okay.
you were able to find the next Dollywood, the next Pigeon Forge, and maybe there was one Alpine slide, maybe none. You go in there, you open an
Sure.
Alpine slide, and you've got to line out the door. And then it's like, okay, then you go to your investors, you raise $100 million, and you start planting different company branded Alpine slides all over that area. It's not
Mm,
your same brand because you're not really benefiting from that, from having a chain. In
hmm.
fact, you might be even doing yourselves a disservice, right? So you name them all differently, brand them a little differently, but the infrastructure is all the same. From the outside looking in, any potential competitors like, oh man, there's like 6 under construction right
Yeah.
now. Like, I'm not into it. Then you can still share the email list. You could still cross pollinate
Oh,
the
of course.
lookalike audiences. Like, I love that idea. I go to Texas Roadhouse or
Yeah.
Cheesecake Factory, and there's always a line, and
Sure.
it's like, why don't you open another
Yeah.
one next door or double your prices? It just pains me to see people walking away.
I totally agree. Especially with retail, there's like this thing of like, if you don't have a lot of people there, even if your product's good, like it somehow deters other people from going if your parking lot's empty or slow or whatever. And then it starts to go the other way
Yeah,
where when there's more people there, it's like, oh well, I guess we have to go
yeah,
there. And then obviously, like you also hit something where I'm sure, like take the coasters when somebody says, "Oh my gosh, there's an hour-long line. We are not going to do that." That's got to
Sure.
happen. But yeah, it's this thing of, like you said, like being able, however you do it through like multiple businesses, locations, or the same. Yeah, like it's all about matching supply and demand in a way that balances out, hopefully. And yeah, no, that's it would take a lot about the coasters to do that. You'd need X number of locations scouted out. You'd want to secure that land, whether that's through options or a lease or whatever, in a low risk
Hmm.
way. You do have, in that instance, you do have a lead time of building it
Sure.
and order all that kind of stuff. And obviously, you've got a large capital
Hmm.
requirement. Yeah, I think it could definitely work. It would be it'd be a grand slam. You would just, the planning is going to make or
Right.
break you. Locations, does this make sense? All that kind of
Yeah, I
stuff.
feel like manufacturing that much fake saturation,
Yeah,
doing it in Alpine slides might be like the riskiest, the most expensive way to do it. But you
yeah,
could take that same principle. Let's talk about a $2,000 bull riding thing in a mall, like the Galleria in
yeah.
Dallas, 4 stories, 300,000 square feet, and there's 8 Starbucks in there, right? So
Oh,
yeah,
really?
I mean, like I'm exaggerating, but it's so
Yes.
big
So,
that most people never make it to the whole mall. So
how
you could
funny.
do it there. You could put like a bull riding place at one entrance. Oh, this is crushing it. Let's put it at that entrance. Let's put it at that. You know what I'm saying? Like you could do it
So, so,
a lot cheaper.
so a safer way of that. So I referenced this, the candy store that I added on. Incredible business. It is so good. High margins,
Hmm.
very easy, all that kind of stuff. I have been very tempted at times to go somewhere else, Knoxville, wherever. And yeah, like whether it's malls or whatever, like why aren't there more candy
Hmm.
stores? And that's the same kind of thing, like in your instance in that mall. If you've got one that works, yeah, just, I don't know if it can handle 4 or 10 or whatever, but yeah, just like you keep doubling down on it once you know that you've got a winner. And if it works on one side of the mall, there's no reason why it's not going to work on the other side of the mall,
Yeah.
assuming they're equal in terms of demand and stuff. And yeah, no, that's, you called that the illusion of
Yeah.
saturation. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah, I like
Yeah. And
that.
it's like there's certain businesses that you only find in certain places, right? Like you'll
Yeah,
see a candy store in the tourist areas or in an airport, but like, why don't you ever see them in strip malls? Or like,
I totally
why
agree.
can't you take a candy store? You know how sometimes you can buy candy like by the pound?
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why can't you take like a shrunk down version of that? Take like the 20% most popular items and sell that as a service to gas stations or something. Where it's like,
Yeah,
listen,
that's
here's the
incredible.
scale, here's the bag. Here, we're gonna refill it. You don't do anything. People they'll weigh, they'll check out, and it's gonna take 80 square feet, and you can just put it like kind of like the Hunt Brothers pizza model at gas stations. Like do
Yeah,
that
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah.
candy or something.
Yeah, incredible, because candy is something that you've got so much room there to be creative. And for our store and others that we obviously weren't the first to do something like that, it's about being bold and bright colors and bright lights and weird candy and all this. So you can really, really do some very cool stuff. One thing I think I've had employees get worked up about, or other people. What if a customer steals some, or what if they pour a bag and just leave it, or
It's a
whatever? And it's
cost doing
like
business. Who
yeah,
cares?
it doesn't
I'm at eight.
matter.
I'm at
Like it
80%
is.
margins. Like they stole twenty
Oh
percent from
yeah,
it.
I probably eat 10 handfuls of candy every time I'm at snow. Just that's what keeps me going. And so we are able to go through my addiction and still do very well. And yeah, it's just like it's so easy to run. It's cleanup is also very easy. And even if you design, if you're doing it by the pound, like you design systems to catch all the candy and keep it clean and everything.
Hmm.
We have, I don't know if this is in other areas, but we have general stores, like kind of old timey, whatever. There's a popular one here in Knoxville. And yeah, they do the same thing. They've got like these big barrels and I don't know, maybe 40, 50 different kinds of candy, a lot of older kind of candies. But yeah, it's like it looks great. People fill it up. The margins are incredible, long shelf life. Almost everybody loves a good candy. Everyone's got a favorite in some
Yeah.
way. And yeah, it's just like kids love it. That once the kid's going crazy, that gives the parent the excuse to also join in if they want to. Yeah, love it. And you can take that same model yeah, whether it's gem mining or candy or whatever.
Yeah, I love that gas station idea because the gas station
Yeah.
owner's probably buying Sour Patch Kids for $2 and selling it for 2.89. You're like,
Hmm.
listen, bro,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
kids are gonna prefer this because they get to scoop it and it's
of
experiential,
course.
and then you're gonna have an 80% margin instead of a 20% margin, right?
Yeah, and for them, like a gas station, obviously they're going to keep their existing candy selection. And so, yeah, if somebody wants just the Snickers bar for, I don't know what they sell for now, 99 cents or whatever, okay, you can do that. Or you can go over here and probably pay a little bit more, but, mix and match. And that's the value
Yeah.
that you there kind of breaking up. Okay. That the value of the experience, mixing and matching, getting the exact quantity that you want
Getting
is,
5 different things.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, totally. That's another, for whatever reason at Snow, if I'm going to be working a station for whatever reason, it's usually the gift shop. And man, that's another. You'll have somebody come up with just this monster bag of candy, and we weigh it. They can weigh it if they want to along the way, but no one ever does. But set it down and then tell them the price. And every time I wince at what
Yeah.
it's like. Okay, this is $89 of M&Ms or whatever. 9 times out of 10, the people pay it without even question.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, when somebody gets upset by it or whatever, I'll even say, okay, how about $40
Yeah.
then? And it's like we're still making a great margin. They get a huge bag of candy, and almost everybody finds a price to at least pay, if not a full
Yeah.
price. But yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
have no
And
concept of
that's,
how much things weigh.
oh, of course. And that's something too that me working in the gift shop, we've got soft drinks and we've got what I call theater box candy, just the prepackaged. And I don't know, maybe a box of Sour Patch Kids, let's call it $4, which is expensive.
Mhm.
And maybe at a gas station, you buy that same box for $2.
Mhm.
And I've had a ton of people be like, "Oh my god, $4! I can buy this at the gas station for two." And then in a nice way, I usually say, "Oh, okay, well, you can do it."
Yeah.
And they aren't at a gas station, so they pay it.
Yeah.
Or especially like with drinks and stuff, and they get it too. It's like it's a tourist town. It's same as the movie theater. And so anyways, yeah, I just love those businesses or hustles or whatever that have usually high margins, very easy. If you make mistakes or you price something wrong or you just didn't realize something, that there's a lot of room for error on your part. And yeah, and doing a spin on something that is familiar with people like candy,
Mhm.
but doing it your own way with lights and weird gadgets. And we've got all different like stuff you've never seen before, like the hottest gummy bear and
Yeah. Yeah.
all
Or
these
a
all these
snake
weird
that's like 3
contraptions and
feet
stuff.
long. Yeah.
Exactly,
Or a
exactly.
gummy snake. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah, we had those for a while. And the problem with those is, yeah, when somebody opens it or what, you just got this like $60 gummy snake laying around that you can't really do
Yeah.
anything with, and it's more for,
It's a gimmick.
we have some of that stuff just as display. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, it's just fun. Like it's just a fun. If you can get over selling sugar to people, that would be the only hurdle. And other than that, yeah, it's a fun little business. And we do same with toys. We sell a lot of toys, and like the weirder, the more crazy, the more unique, the better. And yeah, and so anyways, it's a fun niche that I enjoy and want to build into more businesses as I go forward.
Yeah. I I'm thinking about the gem mining in the mall, and I
Yeah,
love what you said about putting like real prizes and 10% of those or whatever,
yeah,
like a real diamond.
yeah,
Imagine if like I just picture if an 8-year-old kid is mining for gems and a family walks by, they're not going to stop and watch. And then once
yeah,
they see the
yeah,
kid,
yeah,
they're not going to not buy. So like imagine
yeah.
manipulating it a little bit where you're really busy, there are a bunch of kids and a kid checks out and you have a bag of dirt that's like tagged. And you're like, here you go, try this one. That's the winning bag. And then all the kids see it and like, oh, I'm going to get that result. Oh, 10% chance, kids, but I'll take your money.
Oh, totally. I didn't realize I have so many principles to business, but here's another one is I am really big on making everything also a spectator kind of event
Mm,
for Snow and the coaster too. Like there are a lot of people, whether they just aren't physically able or wanting to or whatever, that just watch, and making that experience something that's also good for them. Because like for us, and I promise this is going to loop back to the gold mine, but for us, like if there's a family and they brought grandma with them on vacation or whatever, you know, if grandma can't stand for an hour or two in line with
Mm-hmm.
you, like maybe you don't go to the coaster because it's like we're not just going to sit her, whatever. And so you've got to accommodate those kind of things as well. We at Snow, we've got these, you've probably seen them in the mall, but these massage chairs
Mm-hmm.
where you put in $1 or whatever. And I was approached on those and I was like, okay, whatever. It was a company going to do it like a rev share. And I was like, okay, whatever.
You had
And
nothing to lose.
we got, yeah, yeah, yeah. And we got some, and they are probably the most profitable thing that we have in terms of a percentage. Like, it is crazy because, again, like it's grandma or it's the dad or whoever that's not participating, but it's their chance to do something, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And we just keep adding them. And the only problem with that is it's a really unique, well, I guess it's a really like clever product where if somebody sits down on it and doesn't pay within 60 seconds or whatever, it starts beeping like this big alarm or whatever to encourage them to pay. And so every once in a while, you've got some chaos with the beeping and stuff, but it's effective. Most people pay. And we start at, I don't know, $2 or $3 and go all the way up to $20 for those massages. And it freaking prints.
Holy
And
cow.
so that ties back to that's something that allows somebody that might not be participating in the main activity to still come and do something that they enjoyed and watch the others. And like with the gym mining too, I would really, really focus on like, how does this look from either somebody in the group that might not be participating, or how does this look from somebody walking like the mall, somebody just walking, and how do you get their attention? And
Mm-hmm.
and you said this like friction, like how do you reduce the friction and allow them to participate as easily as possible. Like maybe that's even you've got like some free bags or something and they're smaller,
Yeah,
whatever, and you hook them in with
I
that
like that.
and upsell just something to, yeah, to get them to participate and yeah, make it like a maybe not a show, but an
Yeah.
experience.
Well, I just interviewed the owner of Dig World, that guy who has
Yeah,
the,
I'm so excited to
yeah,
hear
it's
that.
coming out
Yeah.
in a week or two, but he does the same thing.
Okay.
I'm like, how is it only $25 for 2 hours? And he's like, well, it's like that includes the grandma that's just watching. I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And then grandma usually gets on the backhoe as well, right? So
Really?
that's exactly
That's
what you're
funny.
talking
Yeah.
about. I was thinking with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
massage chairs, you should reprogram the beeps to just yell like, pour, pour, pour.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
paying. They're
Yeah.
not paying.
Yeah,
No.
that's funny.
Well,
It's something that when my rev share, when that lease or whatever started getting close to expiring, I was like, okay, well,
I'm gonna buy my
I'm just
own.
gonna go buy my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I told them, I was like, hey, look, like I feel bad about this, but like I'm gonna do this and I appreciate it. And they were like, they gave me some stat, like we were like the number 3 vendor for them. They had a lot of locations or put them in a lot of locations.
Wow.
And anyways, they cut my rev share down to I think it's like 80/20
Yeah.
with
They'd rather
80
have
being me.
something than
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. They supply like new cushions and
Yeah.
if something breaks. But I was like, fine,
Yeah.
okay, but we'll keep going for a while. But oh yeah, what I was going to say about the dig world, I'm sure you saw this in Pigeon Forge. We just got Diggin' Zone. It's the same thing, but it's an independent brand or
Hmm.
whatever. Did you see that?
No, I want to do a whole other podcast with you about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what I was going to say is one reason I'm really excited to hear yours that you just did was I know ideas are a dime a dozen, but I've been thinking about doing that
Hmm.
forever. I just never
Well, you're the
did.
guy to do it too. I mean, this is right up your alley.
I know. I know. But so here's the thing. The one here is in what I would say a terrible location. I could be wrong, but I think it's a terrible location. You need a lot of land, and land is at a premium. And so they are off the beaten path. So they have to be a destination for the most part.
Hmm.
So in what you save by not being
Hmm.
in a premium real estate, like whatever that would cost, you're paying it every year in marketing. You got to get people there. But anyways, I watched them very closely. It appears that they might have ran out of money a couple times as they were building it,
Mm.
and they finally got open. And there was a huge buzz around it on social media and everything. And so I was really excited to see, okay, what do you get? And they sell a all day pass, and don't quote me on this, but I think adults for the day, it's like $70, something like that. Every person has to pay to enter. Grandma's paying that
$70?
$70 too.
Holy cow.
Yeah. I think there's a little bit of a discount for senior citizens or kids or whatever. But I don't pass that way in town when I'm up there super, super often. I think they've got some business. I'll be very interested to see, like, I mean, if they're able to do it for 60 or $70 off the beaten path, and like when you really look at it, like, I don't know, a lot of the rides are like, you could jazz them up quite a bit. They've got the Traco or
Hmm.
whatever that four people sit and goes like that. Like, I don't know, you can definitely jazz that up. But, and you can definitely, I think, go cheaper depending on how you pay for the equipment. But anyways, I've been super interested in that. I still am thinking about maybe doing one in a better location, put my own spin on it. People love digging and moving
Yeah.
things, all that kind of stuff with heavy equipment. And at theirs, from what I've seen, they've got a little sandbox or whatever. But what if you could like really dig some holes, like in a safe way, and really fill and push dirt and do some fun stuff?
Hmm.
It just,
You could get really
I
fun
think
with
there's
it.
a,
Yeah.
oh, totally. So I will be very excited to hear how, what you said, $12 an hour, 14, something like
It's
that.
$25 for 2 hours per person.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all.
Mm-mm.
And yeah, I'll be very excited about that because it's been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, and he's only on 3 acres.
Mm.
50,000 customers a year.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
What city?
Katy, Texas. It's right next to the
Oh,
mall
cool.
there. It's like in the mall parking lot.
Hmm.
So he leases land from the mall.
Oh, no
Yeah,
way.
it's
And
brilliant.
and going back to malls, I'm so glad you brought that up. I have thought so here in Knoxville, we've got a couple malls, but the main one's called Westtown Mall, and it's got a Cheesecake Factory that tells you like it's not big,
Yeah.
but it's got a movie theater, all that kind of stuff. But their parking lot is humongous. And they, a couple times a year, I don't know if this is common in other places, but they'll lease it out to a circus or whatever it is, and they'll have a pop-up event for a month or something. I think it does well, but I thought about doing something very similar with a snow concept and leasing a space like that has high traffic, that has a lot of area, do it seasonally.
Hmm.
It's a whole lot easier to maintain snow in November, December, January than it is July. And yeah, do a pop-up snow event.
Hmm.
I have no idea what, leasing a mall parking lot would look like, but people do
Yeah.
it. So I think there's something there. But yeah, I think about malls a lot, actually. I never
That's funny.
go, but yeah,
Same,
like
same.
it's just they're really just unique in a weird, just perfectly American kind of
Yeah.
invention.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's just so funny.
Yeah. And especially in Houston, like being indoors to shop that's always going to be popular, right? In certain
Yeah, of
markets.
course. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And well, that's something too. Like, I assume you're saying that Texas, I'm sure, gets very
yeah.
hot. And whether it's extreme heat or it's cold or it's snow or whatever, people might say they enjoy that. They enjoy being outside, they enjoy being in the sun, but most people, they enjoy small segments of that.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a lot of people that come from up north and have snow all the time, and they are excited to be at our place because it's a controlled environment. They've never been in snow in 70 degrees. It makes it just so accessible in a way that, and so like same thing, like shopping, if it's Houston in the summer, yeah, you might enjoy outside sometimes, but yeah, people are lazy and want to be comfortable. And yeah, like being indoors or just, yeah, I guess where I'm going with it is just like bringing it's not to cater to the laziness of the customer, but it's just making them reducing the friction, just like you said.
Yeah. Well, dude, like I feel like we only scratched the surface of what I want to talk to you
I know.
about. Like I would love to
I
have
know.
you on
I could do
again
this all
if
day.
you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I would
I
love
think
that
this is going to
too.
be really popular because it was just chock
I
full of ideas.
I hope so. I don't care that much necessarily about having a following, but I just like talking shop, I guess.
Hmm.
And one thing that's hard for me in terms of I'm traditionally been very bad on self promotion, but I can't really sum up what it is that I do. And like you can do a deep dive, whether it's, I mean, there's plenty of projects and businesses we didn't even mention. And it's just something that it's hard to package it. And we talk for whatever, an hour. And yeah, like I could seriously go another few hours with you. And it's just a hard thing to explain. So, anyways, having multiple sessions, I think would be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do it. I'm headed to Greece in
Yeah.
a couple days
Oh,
and
cool.
then Utah, but I'm
Nice.
bringing my recording stuff to Utah. So maybe in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, just let me know with with a little bit of heads up, I can make anything work really for the most part. So yeah, just let me know what works for you.
Okay, awesome, man. Well, like this was a lot of fun. I feel like we're
Yeah,
kindred
I
spirits.
appreciate it. I
And
agree. I agree.
you posted that picture of something you're building, and I want to get to that. And I want to talk more about snow. And
Okay.
I just because I feel like you're doing like 80% more than what we had time for today. So
Oh, totally. So yeah, no, I'll get some topics together too. But yeah, just whatever you think of. And yeah, if you want to do a shorter session, longer session, whatever, just let me know. I'm pretty flexible.
cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, man. It was great
So
meeting you.
okay. See you,
All
brother.
right. See ya. All right. What'd you think? Did I oversell it? I didn't oversell it. Matthew is awesome. Please let me know, Chris at cofounders.com, if you want me to have him on again. Please like and subscribe. Share this with your friends, yada, yada, yada. I hope you got some good ideas of how you can start a candy business or a gem mining business or an Alpine roller coaster, or an indoor sledding business, whatever you want. I hope you enjoyed it. Love you. Bye.